President Trump is building his newly launched global peace initiative for Gaza.
Israel's military is quietly acknowledging a much higher death toll in Gaza.
More than 500 people have been killed in Gaza since Israel and Hamas signed a ceasefire deal in October.
While world leaders sit at peace tables discussing Gaza's future, Gaza's present looks very different. Airstrikes are still happening, civilians are still dying, entire neighborhoods are still being erased. And, according to United Nations investigation teams, what's happening to the people of Gaza is still major violations of international law. So today we're going to break down what has happened recently in Gaza, specific events, documented violations, and why many experts say that peace talks mean nothing if the violence doesn't stop. One of the biggest contradictions right now is this. Gaza is technically under a ceasefire framework, but the airstrikes have not stopped. On February 15th, 2026, Israeli airstrikes hit multiple areas across Gaza, killing at least 11 Palestinians, including people sheltering in displaced person areas, according to Palestinian officials and international reporting. Hospitals reported additional deaths in Khan Yunis and the Jabalia refugee camp. This is where strikes are hitting groups of people in tent encampments and refugee areas, which, by the way, is a grave violation of international law. And bombing tent encampments, that is a war crime. These attacks happened just days before international peace meetings were to be held, and this highlights the gap between diplomacy and what's happening in reality. Local monitoring groups have said that ceasefire violations have been widespread, mainly from the Israeli army side. And this documents shelling, airstrikes, arrests, and naval attacks, including incidents that killed children. Basically, the ceasefire exists on paper while people in Gaza are dying on the ground. These claims are not without their merit, as a major UN humanitarian report says this. That entire neighborhoods have been methodically destroyed, humanitarian assistance has been restricted, and conditions imposed on Palestinians are becoming incompatible with a normal civilian survival. UN officials say that these patterns, combined with forced displacement, raise serious concerns about ethnic cleansing, meaning the permanent removal of a population from its land, something that the Israelis have been engaging in for decades now. And this is not just activist language, this is wording coming directly from international human rights investigators. And the claim is brought up that these people are in dangerous war zones. But the problem with that claim is that we're seeing a pattern involving strikes on areas civilians were told were safer. Similar incidences have repeatedly occurred in displacement zones, and these were places where families moved after the evacuation order, after they were told to go there. And when densely populated civilian areas keep getting hit, it raises serious legal questions about proportionality and civilian protection under international law. This isn't just one singular strike or one isolated incident. Officials report over 1,600 alleged ceasefire violations. This is since late 2025. So essentially, people in Gaza have no choice. If they follow the instructions, they can still get killed. If they stay, they can still get killed. Where are they supposed to go? Violence isn't only about bombs. UN humanitarian reports show Gaza still faces severe shortages of drinking water and essential supplies, even after partial reopening of infrastructure controlled through Israeli access points. Aid delivery remains inconsistent, and investigators say denial or restriction of humanitarian assistance contributes to catastrophic living conditions. And human rights bodies argue that access to food, water, and infrastructure become part of military pressure, and it violates international humanitarian law. Now, it's important to know that even if there are ceasefires and temporary stopping of airstrikes, the infrastructure in Gaza has been completely destroyed. Investigators emphasize that the massive civilian toll in Gaza itself, where destruction of infrastructure and displacement have reached historic levels. This is unprecedented. Israel, of course, will dispute many of these accusations. They claim that its operations targeting militants in response to threats, but international legal scrutiny is intensifying as civilian casualties keep continuing. Peace cannot exist at a negotiating table while bombs are still falling somewhere else. Peace isn't announcements. It's not reconstruction plans. Peace is civilians being protected every single day. If international law means anything, then it must apply equally, even to powerful states. Because when children die during ceasefires, when neighborhoods disappear block by block, when people are displaced again and again, the world doesn't just witness tragedy. It witnesses a failure to accountability. Ending violence in Gaza isn't complicated by principle. Stop attacking civilians, allow unrestricted humanitarian aid, and hold violations accountable, no matter who commits them. Because peace isn't something that you promise later. Peace is something that you stop destroying right now.